This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching News 9. English news as it should be.
A very good morning. You're watching News 9. I'm Karthik Malhotra, and we've got a power-packed 1 hour ahead of us this Monday morning. To begin with, on the show, we will discuss with EU sanctions on Russian oil imports. How likely is the Indian economy to slip, which imports about a third of its energy needs from Russia? Also on the show, coming up with Kranti Batini, we will discuss Q1 results, which have so far been a mixed bag. IT stocks haven't done very well, but Reliance has shown a 78% increase in profit year on year. The question really is, how long before Sensex reclaims its lost glory? That's what we have on the show for you on the morning brief this morning. This is Morning Brief at 9. First up, let's bring you all the headlines that we're tracking for you this Monday morning. Parliament is set to review major tax overhaul today as new income tax bill aims to simplify rules, cut litigation and replace the 1961 Act. India is set to receive $100 billion FDI from the EFTA region, says Piyush Goyal. Highlights trade deal impact, innovation fund and push for global competitiveness. And after Wazir X, now another cryptocurrency exchange, CoinDCX, confirms $44 million hack, assures user funds are safe as it investigates breach and strengthens crypto security amid rising regulatory focus in India. India is set to produce first commercial-scale semiconductor chip this year as government boosts design, fabrication and AI innovation through IITs and national tech missions. Meanwhile, India's $15 billion petroleum exports to the European Union face threat as Brussels bans refined products made from Russian crude in third countries like India, UAE as well as Turkey. The National Company Law Tribunal approves merger of Adani Cementation with Ambuja Cements, paving way for consolidation of Adani Group's cement assets, operational synergies and accelerated expansion plans. India's electronics, apparel and marine exports surge in Q1 with US, UAE and China leading as top destinations amid rising global demand. Samsung has received 2.1 lakh pre-orders in 48 hours for Made in India foldable phones, nearly matching the S25 launch numbers. And in global news, Elon Musk announces Baby Grok, a kid-friendly standalone AI chatbot from XAI aimed at providing age-appropriate educational and safe interactions for children amid past Grok controversies. The top story we're tracking for you this morning, the long-awaited report on the Income Tax Bill 2025 will be tabled in the Lok Sabha today, marking a key step towards replacing the 6-decade-old Income Tax Act of 1961. Now, the new bill, introduced earlier this year by Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, is being seen as a major overhaul aimed at simplifying the country's direct tax regime. The 31-member Select Committee has adopted its report in a meeting held on July 16th after months of review and as many as 285 recommendations. Now, the bill cuts the current law nearly in half from over 5 lakh words to just 2.6 lakh words. Now, the number of sections drops from 819 to just 536 and chapters are reduced by half as well. Now, legal jargon and endless clauses are being replaced with plain language, and tax provisions like exemptions and TDS are now being presented in simple tables. Now, the aim was to provide clarity, fewer disputes, and easier compliance by way of this new bill. Now, another major change is that the bill scraps the confusing system of previous year and assessment year. Instead, India will now adopt a single tax year concept, meaning income earned and taxed in the same year. For example, income earned in 2025 will also be taxed in the year 2025, not in the following year. Now, the revamped code also introduces a dedicated and clearer chapter for not-for-profit organizations and removes over 1,200 provisos and 900 explanations, moves meant to declutter and reduce legal grey areas. Now, as Parliament debates the bill this monsoon session, all eyes will be on whether this reform finally delivers the transparency and taxpayer friendliness in India's income tax system, which has been long promised. Now, India is poised for a major investment boost, with Union Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal projecting $100 billion in foreign direct investment from the European Free Trade Association, or EFTA, comprising countries including Switzerland, Norway, Iceland and Liechtenstein. Now, speaking at the ASSOCHAM meeting, Goyal said the investment will be a major boost following the India-EFTA Free Trade Agreement, which comes into effect on October 1st. The deal, signed in March this year, is expected to unlock long-term capital, create 1 million direct jobs and open India to cutting-edge Swiss technologies as well as SMEs. Goyal noted that the FDI could trigger a total of $500 billion in investments, including domestic equity, into both brownfield and greenfield projects across India. Now, in Mumbai, Goyal also inaugurated the DSCI Advanced Cyber Skills Center at the CII Model Career Center in Kandivali. This high-tech training hub aims to produce industry-ready cybersecurity talent, supporting India's growing digital economy. The minister also unveiled a 1 lakh crore rupee innovation fund, calling it a game changer in India's R&D sector. Grants and zero-interest loans will be offered to companies ready to innovate, scale and take Indian products global. He urged Indian businesses, especially MSMEs, to focus on scale, quality and global market access, stressing India's advantage of 2.4 million STEM graduates annually, nearly 43% of them being women. Goyal also highlighted India's growing role as a global capability center hub, presenting a strong alternative to traditional offshore locations, especially as dependency on H-1B visas declines. And in a big win for professionals working abroad, Goyal announced a new social security pact with the UK, allowing Indian workers on short-term UK assignments to keep contributing to their EPF accounts in India, avoiding a 25% deduction in UK social security.
All countries have now ratified, all the 4 countries have ratified the FTA, lodged their documents with the repository, which was Norway, and from 1st October, EFTA will come into effect.
And after the Wazir X debacle, there has now been another major blow to India's crypto industry. CoinDCX, one of the country's leading cryptocurrency exchanges, has confirmed a cyber attack that led to a loss of nearly $44 million. That's close to 368 crore rupees. The hack occurred on Saturday, targeting one of the platform's internal operational accounts used for liquidity purposes on a partnered exchange. However, the Mumbai-based exchange has reassured users that no customer funds have been affected. In a statement, CoinDCX clarified that the compromised account did not store any user assets and the main crypto trading and INR withdrawal services remained fully operational throughout. The company's Web3 trading platform was briefly paused as a precaution, but is now live again. Co-founder Sumit Gupta took to social media to explain that the breach took place from a sophisticated server compromise. He said the company would cover the losses entirely through its own treasury reserves, which remain healthy and well capitalized. Now, Gupta also urged investors to stay calm and avoid panic selling, warning that such moves often lead to poor outcomes. CoinDCX's internal security team is now working closely with global cybersecurity experts to patch vulnerabilities, trace the stolen funds and tighten their systems. The company also plans to launch a bug bounty program, inviting ethical hackers to help identify and fix security loopholes in exchange for rewards. Now, the incident comes at a time when crypto security remains under scrutiny in India, and the government is expected to release its first crypto policy paper soon, likely bringing much needed regulatory clarity to the space. India is nearing a major breakthrough in its digital transformation drive, with Union Electronics and IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav announcing that the country will produce its first commercial-scale indigenously made semiconductor chip later this year that could position India as a key player in the global semiconductor industry. Now, speaking at the 14th convocation of IIT Hyderabad, Vaishnav said that IIT students have already designed 20 chipsets, with 8 reaching the tape-out stage, which is the final step before manufacturing begins. Now, these chip designs have been sent to global foundries and the government-run semiconductor laboratory in Mohali for production. Vaishnav expressed confidence that India will soon rank among the top 5 semiconductor nations, driven by focused government initiatives like the India Semiconductor Mission, which has provided advanced chip design tools to 270 colleges and 70 startups. India currently has 6 semiconductor fabrication facilities approved or under development, and once operational, these state-of-the-art facilities are expected to boost production capabilities. The minister further highlighted the rapid rise in India's electronics manufacturing sector. He said electronic exports have crossed $40 billion, a staggering 8-fold increase in just 11 years, with production rising 6 times in the same period.
Already we have 6 units which are under construction. The first made in India chip, manufactured in India chip on a commercial scale, will be manufactured in this year 2025. The way we have created the talent pool, the way we are promoting the design, and the way we are going deeper into the capital equipment and the materials required for semiconductors, India will become one of the top 5 semiconductor nations in the world in the coming years.
And staying with the Indian economy, India's major oil trade with Europe may soon take a hit. A new round of European Union sanctions targeting Russian oil could put $15 billion worth of Indian petroleum exports at risk, according to economic think tank Global Trade Research Initiative, or GTRI. Now, the EU's 18 sanctions package aimed at curbing Russian oil revenues amid the ongoing conflict in Ukraine includes a major move, that is, a ban on refined petroleum products made from Russian crude oil, even if those products are processed and exported by third countries like India, Turkey, or the UAE. Now, the measure spares only a few close allies such as the US, UK, Canada, and Switzerland, dealing a potential blow to countries that have been refining Russian crude and supplying diesel, petrol, and jet fuel to Europe. GTRS founder warned that India's $5 billion petroleum exports to the EU are directly in the crosshairs, with the broader export figure already falling from $19.2 billion in FY24 to $15 billion in FY25. That's a sharp 27% drop. Now, India has emerged as a key refiner of Russian crude, especially since the start of the Ukraine war. According to GTRI, India imported $50.3 billion worth of crude oil from Russia in FY25, accounting for over 1/3 of India's total $143.1 billion crude oil bill. If enforced strictly, this EU regulation could severely impact India's petroleum trade with Europe and may force Indian refiners to diversify sourcing or find alternative markets for their refined products. Meanwhile, Russia's biggest oil producer, Rosneft, slammed EU sanctions on India's Naira Energy refinery as unjustified and illegal, saying the restrictions directly threaten India's energy security. And of course, we will bring you more on India's oil trade with the European Union and the impact on stocks like Naira Energy as well as Reliance later on the show. But moving on for now, the Adani Group has just taken a major step forward in consolidating its position in India's cement industry. The National Company Law Tribunal has approved the merger of Adani Cementation with Ambuja Cements, a move that will integrate the group's cement operations under one umbrella and bring in major synergies as well. The Ahmedabad bench of the NCLT passed the order giving a green light to the scheme of amalgamation. This restructuring, first announced in the month of June, is a part of the Gautam Adani-led group's broader plan to streamline its cement assets. Now, under the deal, Adani Enterprises will receive 8.7 million shares of Ambuja Cements in a share swap agreement. The order states that all property rights and operational powers of Adani Cementation will now vest with Ambuja Cements. This is expected to boost manufacturing capacity, cut costs and simplify compliance processes. Ambuja, already India's second largest cement maker, plans to scale up further from 100 to 140 million tons annually by the year FY28, mostly via brownfield expansions. The group entered the cement sector less than 2 years ago after acquiring Ambuja Cements and ACC from Holcim, a $6.4 billion deal. Since then, it has been on an aggressive expansion spree, acquiring players like Penna Cements, Sanghi Industries and most recently Orient Cement. The NCLT has also directed Ambuja to comply with all SEBI and stock exchange regulations as its global depository receipts are listed on the Luxembourg Stock Exchange. Now, India's electronics exports are expanding rapidly globally, with the US, UAE and China emerging as the top 3 destinations for the April to June quarter of this financial year, FY26. According to Commerce Ministry data, exports from this sector surged by a massive 47% to $12.4 billion, marking India's deepening role in global electronics supply chain. The US alone accounted for over 60% of these shipments, followed by the UAE and China. Now, this trend isn't limited to electronics alone. India's ready-made garment exports also saw steady growth, rising to $4.19 billion in Q1, up from $3.85 billion in the same period last year. The US continues to dominate as the largest market here as well, comprising a 34% share. And it's not just tech and textiles. There's also marine exports, which have reported a solid 19.45% growth, driven largely by strong demand from American buyers. According to officials, this performance reflects India's rising credibility as a manufacturing hub, with global markets increasingly turning to Indian exporters for quality, compliance, as well as consistency. And within just 48 hours of launch, Samsung's newest 7th generation foldable smartphones have racked up over 2.1 lakh pre-orders in India. That includes the Galaxy Z Fold 7, Z Flip 7 and Flip 7 FE, priced between 89,000 rupees and a whopping 2.11 lakh rupees. Now, this demand is nearly matching the buzz created earlier this year by the Galaxy S25 series, which had garnered 4.3 lakh pre-orders over 3 weeks. Now, Samsung says this is a clear sign of young India's growing interest for cutting-edge made-in-India technology. According to International Data Corporation, the Indian smartphone market is led by Vivo, which had a 19.7% market share in Q1 of FY25. Samsung was number 2 with 16.4% shipments. Tech billionaire Elon Musk has announced plans to launch a child-friendly version of his AI chatbot Grok, and he's calling it Baby Grok. Now, Musk took to social media X to make the announcement, where he said Baby Grok will be a kid-focused app developed by his AI company XAI. According to Musk, the goal is to create a simplified, safe and educational chatbot just for children. Now, while full details are still under wraps, Baby Grok is expected to be a standalone AI distinct from the main Grok chatbot, which has recently made headlines for some controversial and problematic responses. According to a Fox Business report, Baby Grok will be designed to provide age-appropriate, engaging and educational answers while carefully filtering out mature or sensitive content. Now, this move marks XAI's first serious step into child-safe AI tools and comes as the conversation around tech safety for kids intensifies across the globe. And time for a short break right here on Morning Brief at 9. But coming up on the other side, Kranti Batini will be here to decode the mixed bag of Q1 results that we've seen and what more to expect from other nifty 50 companies that are set to launch and announce their Q1 results. The question really that we want to pose to him is how long before Sensex reclaims its lost glory? You're watching Morning Brief at 9.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर डायना प्रीमियम ब्यूटी सोप, पहली झलक करे खूबसूरत।
पढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Every journey needs the right force to move forward. In markets, that force is momentum. Introducing ICICI Prudential Active Momentum Fund, a scheme designed to harness trends based on price and estimates momentum. Aim to put your portfolio in motion. Invest today. NFO closes 22nd July 2025. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
रास्ता है वही शहर।
तू कब आया अभी लाइफ से?
अरे वाह ताई, पहचान गई? शहर जाके आँख का ऑपरेशन करा लिया क्या?
शहर जाए मेरी जूती, मैंने यहीं अपने गांव में ही करवा लिया। वो जो सूरज है ना अपना, वो सब कर रहा है।
अरे राकेश, अरे वाह छोटी, ये स्कूल में सीखा?
इंटरनेट पे।
इंटरनेट?
हाँ, सूरज भैया है ना?
कौन है ये सूरज भैया?
आपको उनसे मिलना है क्या?
हाँ?
चलो, वो रहे सूरज भैया।
हम सूरज से सिर्फ बिजली नहीं बनाते हैं, खुशहाली को देश के कोने कोने तक भी पहुंचाते हैं। अदानी, हम करके दिखाते हैं।
Fresh air, the roof, but different. The grill, but different. The alloys, but different. The seats, but different. Different is in the XUV 3XO Rev X series, starting at rupees 8.94 lakh.
एक मिनट
क्या हुआ?
अभी से इतना खर्चा करोगे तो मेरी पढ़ाई का क्या करोगे?
तूने पहले ही लाइफ इंश्योरेंस का चाइल्ड प्लान सोच रखा है, इसके लिए
बढ़िया है।
सपनों को रखो सुरक्षित चाइल्ड प्लान के साथ। सबसे पहले लाइफ इंश्योरेंस।
Welcome back. You're watching Morning Brief at 9. Let's bring you a mood check on markets. Remember, Friday saw a flat session in the US. Not much change. The tariff question pretty much seems to now be out of the purview of market reactions. Markets really unsure of which way to bend depending on whether the August 1st deadline will stay or get pushed as far as tariffs in the US are concerned. Meanwhile, Asian markets have had a mixed opening this morning. Let's pull up the Asian markets and take a look. The Taiwanese TAIEX seems to be the only exception, which is down about 0.4% or so in trade this morning. Most other Asian markets holding up well. The Hang Seng Index, the main index in Hong Kong, is up about 1/3 of a percentage point. Better news coming in from South Korea as the Kospi is up about 0.6 of a percentage point. Meanwhile, China is also looking in the green this morning. Stocks on the Shanghai Composite Index are up about 0.4% or so in trade. Meanwhile, Indian markets have opened more or less flat this morning. Let's pull up the charts and take a look at where Sensex and Nifty 50 are. Well, Nifty 50 absolutely flat under the 25,000 mark. No recovery really that we are seeing, at least in the first 5-7 minutes of trade this morning. Nifty 50 holding at just about 24,954. Meanwhile, Sensex is down a little more than Nifty this morning. Sensex is down about 0.14% in early trade, down to about 81,600 odd levels. Even the reaction from the mid caps and the small cap index is nothing great to really write home about. And this pain is really perhaps coming from all the uncertainty and the mixed bag of Q1 corporate earning results that we are seeing also weighing in on the small and the mid cap space. Volatility in the Indian markets is considerably lower at about 11.5% or so. Let's pull up the Nifty 50 heat map and look at the pain points in trade this morning. And the biggest pain expectedly coming from Reliance Industries. Now remember, despite a 78% increase in consolidated net profit announced by Reliance Industries on Friday after markets had closed, the stock is still down almost 2%, 1.98% on the heat map right now. And this, of course, coming from all the noise around EU imposing sanctions on crude oil imported from Russia, refined in countries like India, UAE and Turkey, and then exported to the EU. Now, Reliance and Naira Energy, two of the major refiners in India, their stocks and their investors are feeling the jitters this morning. Meanwhile, look at the IT sector. Again, a bad spate of news continues for the IT sector. Look at stocks of TCS, which are down about 0.7%. This is about 10 days after results were announced by TCS, reporting a consolidated revenue, the constant currency revenue slowdown of more than 3%. Meanwhile, look at HCL Tech, which is down again 0.9% or so in trade after a net profit decline of almost 10% on year-to-year basis. Infosys results are expected to be announced later this week on the 23rd of July, but Infi stock taking a beating, down about 1% or so in trade. Meanwhile, Wipro is down about 2.25% or so in trade. So obviously this seems like a mixed session, but the real pain coming in from the IT pack and from energy stocks, including Reliance, which export to the US. Meanwhile, HDFC Bank is up about 1.4% after strong gains reported in its earnings season. So let's put in focus what is really happening with Reliance Industries. Well, to begin with, of course, as I told you, the Reliance Industries had announced its results after markets has closed on Friday, and there was a 78% rise in net profit announced by Reliance. That was at about 26,994 crore rupees. These gains were mostly led by the sale of RIL's investments in Asian Paints. Now, gross revenue for Reliance Industries was also up 6% on a year-on-year basis to as much as 2,73,252 crore rupees. Now, leading Reliance and the results of growth that we are seeing in Reliance have come from both Reliance Jio, whose net profit has grown 25% year-on-year, as well as Reliance Retail profits that are up after tax at about 28.3%. But what's really playing out on the Reliance stock this morning, which as we are seeing right now is down about 2.17% or so in trade, is what is being heard from the European Union and sanctions on Russian crude oil. So both Reliance Industries as well as other stocks, including Naira Energy, are under pressure this morning. Now, EU has set the refined Russian oil price ceiling now to $47.5 a barrel. Now, this new ceiling will be effective September 3rd. Remember, this is a climb down from the current ceiling for refined Russian oil at $60 a barrel. As I told you, stocks like Reliance Industries, Naira Energy are major exporters of refined Russian crude to the European Union. Also remember, India imports about a third of its total crude oil from Russia. Now, we also have a statement coming in from Rosneft Oil Corporation, which is Russia's leading crude exporter, which has said and condemned pretty much the European Union's decision to impose restrictive measures on the Indian refinery of Naira Energy as unjustified as well as illegal. Now, energy continues to be under pressure for India, as Rosneft has also said that the imposition of sanctions against refinery directly threatens India's energy security and will have a negative impact on India's economy. Now, this as per the Rosneft statement. Let's quickly bring in Kranti Batini, who's joining us this morning with an update. Kranti, good morning. Thank you for your time this Monday morning. Explain to us, what do we make of stocks like Reliance Industries despite a handsome growth in profit as well as revenue announced on Friday? We are seeing the stock is down about 2.25% in trade. Mostly it seems stemming from fears around a ban or a sanction on the ceiling by the European Union as far as its import of Russian oil and export to the EU is concerned. Explain that to us.
Yeah, Karthik. Last couple of years have been a good time for India. We have been importing the Russian oil, and it has been refined in Indian refineries, especially like the Reliance and all. And we have been exporting the same oil to European and other nations. So the current implications of the European Union as well as the US making the sanctions on Russia, that's going to have direct impact on Indian refineries right now. But these are the geopolitical issues that are going to have some kind of impact in the medium to short term. But we need to see if there are any kind of negotiations that may improve in this region, especially between US and Russia. Okay, that can be some kind of a positive impact, but by and large, it's going to impact the earnings of these Indian refineries in the medium to short term. But we need to see how these trade deals are going to progress in the next coming weeks. But by and large, in a medium to short term, it's going to have impact on the refineries in India.
All right. So, of course, there is likely to be an impact on refineries in India, but India is also contesting these sanctions. And India's sort of, the whole purpose of India importing cheap Russian oil, and this is something that the External Affairs Minister had said and has been saying for the last 3 years, ever since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, is to secure its own energy needs. And the fact that Europe's problem are Europe's problem and not India's problem. Do you think there's going to be some softening of that narrative now, given the fact that these sanctions are likely to hit India's oil exporters like Reliance and Naira?
Absolutely, Karthik. As a second largest consumer of oil in the world and second largest importer of the oil in the world, we have every right to procure oil across all the oil producing nations in the world. But now the sanctions are coming from the European region. Of course, European region do import a lot of gas from Russia. That's going to have impact on them. At the same point of time, right now, the US is the major oil exporter, and it's turned to be one of the key exporting country in terms of the energy resource are concerned. India can also import gas from US at this point of time. So right now, the major key is played by US at this point of time to increase their prominence in terms of the oil exports are concerned. That's where the medium to short-term outlook looks a little bit murky at this point of time. But we need to see how things are going to pan out. India, one of the strong importer of oils, they try to get the deals wherever the best price is available. We have every right. But as far the refiners are concerned, they have to export. That's where the key math plays in this entire story.
Absolutely right about that, Kranti Batini. I also want to draw your attention to IT stocks. Again, we are seeing that there has been obviously some gloom which is spilling over given what is happening in the US, given inflation fears, interest rate concerns, whether or not Fed Chair Jerome Powell end of this month is going to cut those interest rates. But overall, the IT story continues to be gloomy. Let's look at the results which have been announced so far. TCS, if you remember, had reported a 3.3% reduction in constant currency revenue. Now that is a major decline for a stock like TCS. HCL Tech has also reported a consolidation PAT which has slipped 10% year on year. Meanwhile, Infosys results are expected 2 days from now on July 23rd. But overall, the IT story is looking gloomy. Wipro is down about 2% or so in trade. And overall, nothing really positive for the IT stocks. What's really going on in the IT stocks and how long is this fear going to continue, Kranti?
Yeah, Karthik, we have been discussing on IT stocks. The bellwether company TCS started with a very lukewarm kind of a response. They could not able to gauge the margin guidance also. But what it seems to be is till the time the US trade negotiations don't get concluded, and also the US companies have to increase their budgets. That's where the overhang on all the major IT companies, especially the services companies in India, are concerned. And what we can sense at this point of time is the US companies, when we interact with any US importing vendor, there is a lot of uncertainty. They are not clear how things are going to emerge in the next 3 months. That's where the overhang right now for the IT companies at this point of time. So this short-term overhang is going to play on all these IT companies at least for next couple of quarters, and most probably we can expect some kind of a positive momentum in 26. Right now, the discretionary budgets are not at all going up with respect to IT companies are concerned. And thank God there are no billing issues at this point of time. But the major deal wins are not coming for IT companies at this point of time. So IT might be in a consolidation phase for medium to short term.
Right, consolidation phase for IT stocks likely to continue, is the word coming in from Kranti Vatini. Kranti, also let's pull in other stocks which are in focus this morning, again given that we are right in the middle of earnings season. Remember, we told you Reliance Industries did announce its results after markets closed on Friday, that was the 18th of July. Meanwhile, Zomato parent Eternal is to announce its results today. Ultratech Cement is also due to announce its results today, that's the 21st of July, followed by Paytm, 197 Communication tomorrow, and Infosys on the 23rd of July. Let's just focus on the two companies which are due to announce their results today. Eternal, Zomato parent, what is your reading of what's going on with Eternal, given all that we've been hearing, Kranti, about Zomato's expansion or Eternal's expansion, apart from just food delivery and quick commerce delivery to now air services delivery as well? What is the kind of guidance that one should expect from Eternal as it announces its results today?
I think what market looks forward from, especially from Eternal, is the profitability. Okay, if the profitable parameters are going up, then it can be the positive for the company. By and large, markets are right now watching for the profitability and the margins for Eternal at this point of time. Of course, any expansion in terms of the margin can be a positive for Eternal. We also cross our fingers because the stocks tend to be volatile, and the business also very volatile, which operates with a very thinner margin. So the profitability is the key for these companies right now for this quarter. But these are all the new age companies and very strong disruptive business models. So how these businesses are going to thrive in the next couple of quarters is extremely important. Right now, market is looking for profitability for Eternal.
All right, looking for profitability is the opinion coming in on Eternal, the parent of Zomato. Meanwhile, Ultratech Cement, of course, cement stocks have been sort of already consolidated, given that there are two main players and it's almost moving towards a duopoly. And finally, now, of course, we also heard this morning Ambuja Cement and Adani Cementation are also, they've been given the green light by NCLT to go ahead and merge. So Ultratech Cement likely to announce its results today. Markets are looking at some sort of a build-up of good anticipation, and we are seeing some buying activity this morning. The stock is up about 0.7% or so right now as we speak. What are your expectations from the cement sector, Kranti, and specifically Ultratech Cement on what is likely to announce by way of not just earnings but also guidance for the year ahead?
Yeah, Karthik, we are mildly bullish with respect to the cement as a sector is concerned. What we have witnessed is consolidation in this sector, and the dominant players are going to play their key role in terms of the pricing of the cement is concerned. And also look at the infrastructure theme that is emerging in India, that's going to play a key role with respect to cement prices are concerned. So investor definitely with a long-term horizon, at least with a time horizon of 3 to 5 years, any dip in the names like Ultratech Cement and all, one can accumulate for a medium to longer term perspective. The trajectory for the cement companies going to be in a positive territory going ahead.
Positive territory going ahead. Meanwhile, let's look back once again at Reliance Industries, which is now down about 2.5% or so in trade already, given, of course, the fact that there is threat on the company's earnings as far as its exports to EU are concerned. Meanwhile, Reliance Industry shares, which were supposed to consolidate and supposed to go in a higher territory as per analyst expectations as of last week after announcement of its results, are now seeming under pressure. Any word for investors who are looking at Reliance Industries? What kind of a target should they now be setting for themselves, Kranti, given the fact that we don't know how successfully India will be able to evade these fresh sanctions which are being imposed by EU?
Karthik, on a longer term perspective, the OTC business, oil to chemical business is concerned, the dependence upon, of course, it is the key major driver for Reliance Industries. The GRM's, gross refining margins, are extremely crucial. But if we evaluate Reliance Industries as a sum of the parts business is concerned, still there is a lot of immense value. Of course, this is the company with the highest market capitalization in India, and the sum of the parts business, the new age businesses like the gigafactories, the green energy, and the Geo. We tend to say Geo is the telecom companies, but the management always pursues Geo as the technology company, and the retail business is concerned. All these, the new cylinders of the business, they have been doing extremely good, and the gigafactories are going to deliver the results and the key revenues in the next coming quarters. So given the kind of the setup is concerned, Reliance Industries is best positioned to take the disposable incomes, growing disposable incomes in India. And also the alternative energies, that's also going to play a key role for Reliance Industries. So any dip for a longer term investor, definitely it is a warranted buy for a longer term.
Right, a dip in Reliance, an opportunity to buy is the word coming in from Kranti Patini, equity strategist at Wealth Mill Security. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us here on News 9 this morning.
Thank you. Always my pleasure. Karthik, today I had a bad throat. Excuse me for that.
And get well soon, Kranti. Thank you so much. And before we slip into a break, let's look at the other global headlines that we are tracking for you this morning. US President Donald Trump denies Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent advised him against firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell, dismissing the report as false. Trump administration warns action against Mexico over flight slot cuts and forced cargo relocations that affected US carriers. Also move violation of bilateral air agreement. US retail sales rise 0.6% in June, reversing May's drop. Analysts say the increase may partly reflect price pressures from President Donald Trump's ongoing tariff policies. Russia says President Vladimir Putin is open to peace in Ukraine, but only if Moscow's strategic goals are fulfilled. Kremlin stresses Russia won't compromise on core objectives for ceasefire. Bank of England asks lenders to evaluate resilience to US dollar shocks amid fears that US President Donald Trump's unpredictable policies could undermine the global dominance of the US dollar. Top European Union leaders to visit China this week as part of the 25th China-EU summit. Both sides seek to cool tension and resolve escalating trade disputes. Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba coalition loses upper house majority in Sunday's election, deepens Ishiba's political vulnerability as Tokyo prepares for a new wave of US tariffs. At least 17 people dead and 11 still missing in South Korea after torrential rains caused deadly landslides and flash floods in the East Asian country. Microsoft issues critical alert on active cyber attacks targeting SharePoint software used by US agencies and firms. FBI coordinating response as threat spreads across public and private networks. All these stories on the other side of the break. You're watching Morning Brief at 9 on News 9.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर एंकर टूथपेस्ट, नए जमाने की नई सुरक्षा।
रास्ता है वही शहर
राकेश तू कब आया अभी लाइफ से?
अरे वाह ताई, पहचान गई? शहर जाके आँख का ऑपरेशन करा लिया क्या?
शहर जाए मेरी जूती, नहीं यही अपने गांव में ही करवा लिया। वो जो सूरज है ना अपना, वो सब कर रहा है।
अरे राकेश, अरे वाह छोटी, ये स्कूल में सीखा?
इंटरनेट पे।
इंटरनेट?
हाँ, सूरज भैया है ना।
कौन है ये सूरज भैया?
आपको उनसे मिलना है क्या?
हाँ
चलो, वो रहे सूरज भैया।
हम सूरज से सिर्फ बिजली नहीं बनाते हैं, खुशहाली को देश के कोने कोने तक भी पहुंचाते हैं। अदानी, हम करके दिखाते हैं।
Welcome back. You're watching News 9. This is Morning Brief at 9. US President Donald Trump pushed back on Sunday against a Wall Street Journal report claiming that Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent intervened to stop him from firing Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Now, posting on Truth Social, President Trump dismissed the story as untruthful, adding, and I quote, "People don't explain to me, I explain to them." The US President has repeatedly criticized Fed Chair Jerome Powell and urged him to lower interest rates once again last Friday. Meanwhile, the Trump administration said on Saturday it will take action against Mexico after officials in Mexico City cut flight slots and forced cargo carriers to relocate, moves that affected US airlines. The US Department of Transportation says those decisions made in 2022 and 2023 breach a bilateral air agreement.
The Trump administration said on Saturday it will take action against Mexico after the Mexican government cut flight slots and forced cargo carriers to relocate operations in Mexico City, affecting U.S. airlines. The U.S. Department of Transportation, or DOT, alleges the decisions made in 2022 and 2023 violate a bilateral air agreement. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said in a statement, if the Mexican government fails to address U.S. concerns over those decisions, the DOT could disapprove flight requests from Mexico, the most popular international destination for U.S. airline travelers. Then President Andrés Manuel López Obrador had argued that the capital's main airport was too crowded. He said another airport in Mexico could handle the extra traffic. The DOT also proposed to withdraw antitrust immunity from Delta Airlines' joint venture with Aeromexico to address competitive issues. Delta described the department's move as unprecedented regulatory overreach and said it would, quote, cause significant harm to consumers traveling between the U.S. and Mexico, as well as U.S. jobs, communities, and transborder competition. Aeromexico said it was preparing a joint response to the order, which it plans to issue in the coming days.
And staying with more stories from the United States, retail sales rose more than expected in the month of June, climbing 0.6%, according to the Commerce Department data released last week. Now, that's well above the 0.1% gain economists had predicted and a sharp reversal from May's 0.9% decline. Now, analysts say part of the increase may reflect higher prices due to President Trump's tariff policies. Take a look.
U.S. retail sales rebounded more than expected in June, but the rise could be partly due to tariff-driven price increases. A report from the Commerce Department released Thursday showed retail sales increased 0.6% last month. That's half a percentage point more than economists polled by Reuters had forecast. It's also a big jump from the 0.9% drop in May's sales. But part of June's increase could be due to higher prices on goods exposed to tariffs rather than more goods being sold. Inflation data this week showed solid increases in June in the prices of tariff-sensitive goods like household furnishings and supplies, appliances, sporting goods, and toys. A senior economist at Wells Fargo told Reuters that, quote, the household sector still appears to be holding up, but a moderation in consumer spending appears underway. Core retail sales, which exclude automobiles, gasoline, building materials, and food services, increased 0.5% last month. Core retail sales correspond most closely with the consumer spending component of gross domestic product.
Moving on now, Russia says it remains open to a peace settlement in Ukraine, but insists its strategic goals must still be met. In a state TV interview published on Sunday, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said President Putin wants to conclude the Ukraine settlement peacefully, though the process will be long and complex. Peskov also noted that US President Donald Trump continues to speak of a desire for peace with Russia. He stressed that while dialogue is possible on that front, Moscow will not compromise on what it calls its clear objectives in the conflict with Ukraine. And according to media reports, the Bank of England has asked several lenders to assess their ability to withstand potential shocks tied to the US dollar. The move reflects growing concerns about US President Donald Trump's unorthodox policies undermining global confidence in the dollar as the foundation of international finance. Here's a detailed report.
Sources say the Bank of England has asked some lenders to test their resilience to potential US dollar shocks. It's the latest sign of how the Trump administration's policies are eroding trust in the US as a bedrock of financial stability. As the leading currency for global trade and capital flows, the US dollar is the lifeblood of global finance. But Donald Trump has broken from long-standing US policy in areas such as free trade and defense. It's forced policymakers to consider whether the emergency provision of dollars in times of financial stress can still be relied on. People with direct knowledge of the situation told Reuters that the UK's central bank has requested that some lenders assess their dollar funding plans and the degree to which they depend on the US currency. Another of the sources said in one instance a global bank based in Britain was asked to run stress tests including scenarios where the US dollar swap market could dry up entirely. One analyst told Reuters that it reflects a new paradigm where trust in the international cooperation appears to be breaking. A spokesperson for the BofE declined to comment on the Reuters story, as did representatives for the biggest UK banks with international businesses, including Barclays, HSBC and Standard Chartered.
And staying with Europe, champagne producers in northeastern France are bracing for potential fallout after US President Donald Trump threatened a 30% tariff on EU exports. Industry leaders say the new duties could severely impact jobs and force producers to seek new markets. Already challenged by climate change, the sector now faces mounting pressure from both economic as well as environmental fronts. Take a look.
US President Donald Trump's 30% tariffs are threatening to take the fizz out of the French champagne industry. Producers warn the levies will push up prices for consumers and threaten jobs along the supply chain, including in the United States. The US is the biggest market for champagne, with 10% of exports by volume, equivalent to 27 million to 30 million bottles per year. Maxime Toubard, chairman of industry group Comité Champagne, says 70% of champagne sales are concentrated in 5 countries. While he says tariffs should encourage producers to seek new markets, replacing US sales is not easy.
We can't just wipe out in a few days all the commercial work that has been done over 200 years. We can't just take our volumes to Asia or South America today. We have the ambition to continue to trade with the United States.
The tariffs, due to come in on August 1st, aren't the only threat. Climate change looms large for independent producers like Stéphane Vignon.
We already suffer enough from climate risks. Our finances are drained by this, and that is very bad news that will harm all the players in the market.
A small silver lining, he says, is boutique producers like him could grow their share in the US with more competitive prices and top quality. Total champagne exports fell more than 10% last year, but rose slightly in the first 4 months of 2025, ahead of a 10% tariff in April, data showed.
And moving to Asia now, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba is fighting to hold on to power after his ruling coalition suffered a crushing defeat in Sunday's upper house elections. Now his Liberal Democratic Party and its junior partner fell 3 seats short of the 50 needed to retain their majority in the House. The results follow months of political erosion, including a prior loss of control for Ishiba in the more powerful lower house, marking the LDP's worst performance in 15 years. Now, frustrated by rising inflation, voters turned to emerging alternatives like the populist Japanese First Sansieto Party, which gained ground with its anti-globalist rhetoric. The latest defeat leaves Ishiba politically vulnerable just as Japan braces for fresh US tariffs under President Donald Trump's trade policy. At least 17 people are dead and 11 still missing in South Korea after days of relentless rain triggered severe flooding and deadly landslides, according to the country's disaster management agencies. Rescue crews are racing to locate survivors, especially in the hard-hit resorts town of Gapyeong, where residents were seen wading through thick mud to reach evacuation shelters. In the Changyong region, the entire village was buried under earth and debris. Tens of thousands of homes and roads have been damaged in the East Asian countries, while farmland and livestock have also suffered widespread losses. More than 41,000 households have lost power so far. While rainfall has eased in the hardest hit southern and central regions, the storm system is now moving north with more heavy rain expected in Seoul and surrounding areas. And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Morning Brief at 9. News continues right here on News 9. So stay tuned. And so far, thank you so much for watching.
एसोसिएट स्पॉन्सर डायना प्रीमियम ब्यूटी सोप, पहली झलक करे खूबसूरत।
बढ़ता है, खेलता है, झूलता उछलता है, दौड़ता कभी कभी दौड़ कराता है, आगे आगे बढ़ता है इंडिया, अमूल दूध पीता है इंडिया।
Fresh in the grill, but different. The alloys, but different. The sunroof, but different. The seats, but different. Different is in the XUV 3XO Rev X series.